Hello guys and girls, welcome back to another video. Today we're comparing the Tonex platform to the Nano Cortex. Let's go! So, welcome back to another video guys. Today it's a big comparison because as I said in the previous video about, me complaining about Tonex, it's the fact that I've been undecided between these two. And I will explain my reasoning, but first, let's check out the size differences. As you can see, the Nano Cortex is really nano. It's really small. It features almost the same stuff as the Tonex, except the fact that the Tonex has a MIDI in and out, real MIDI in and out, so you can work easily with other MIDI inputs. But I think that the Nano Cortex has the MIDI via USB interface. On the other hand, the big thing about the Nano Cortex is the fact that you can make neural captures right with this interface. You don't need any other stuff. You don't need a computer. You just, you show to a friend's place with this, and you want to clone their pedal, their amp, whatever. And since it can capture with also microphones, you can of course model not only for example, a tube bed, but a combo, a tube bed with a 4x12, whatever it is. The only downside is the fact that you can only capture with microphones that don't need the 48 volts. But other than that, it's the pro for this thing. I don't care about the difference in size because it's negligible once you have only this at your feet. This is small too. Of course, you can go even smaller with the Tonex One, but you lose a lot of functionality. You lose mostly the ability to have many presets at your feet. You only have two. But maybe if you need only two, this is the reason, and it's also much less expensive. But bear in mind that when we're talking about Tonex, we're talking about both of them. It just depends on what you need on live situation, because at home and for recording, first of all, you have the Tonex software, which you can use standalone. You don't need the pedals to do it. You can also buy it, but if you buy one of these, you get the Tonex software with it. So I think it's a win-win situation. If you want just play with your headphones, get this. It's really small. You can find it for under 200 euros now. It sounds amazing. It sounds exactly the same as the small one. Actually, it has a smidge less latency. It's still pretty fast, both of them. You don't notice anything while playing. But yeah, as far as sound goes, they are the same. But with Tonex, you have to have a computer, an audio interface, all that stuff to make your captures, and a reamp. So if you already have that, good, you're fine. But if you're starting from scratch and you want to have the ability to clone your stuff or other people's stuff, first of all, you're limited to your place, because unless you're traveling with the audio interface, all the cables, the computer, and the reamp box, it's gonna be the stuff that you have to carry tends to go, gets heavier and bigger. While with this, you only bring this, and yeah, this is a much more versatile solution. There is a difference in sound though. I do think that Tonex sounds better. It sounds better in the computer, and it sounds better in here because it takes much more time to make the tone model. So it makes it more accurate. You can also choose the accuracy to do it. There's the fast version, which is, I don't know, it's not good. I do prefer to have the default. But for example, to clone the same pedal, the Tonex software with the default training took like 20-25 minutes, I think, while the Nano Cortex took less than 5, if I do remember correctly. It's a significant difference, especially if you're going, we are comparing the tone models, the accurate tone models, which is the one that I did for my more complex pedals and my amp also. They took forever. They took like 5 hours. And I don't have the latest and greatest, but even with an M1 MacBook, it took a lot. So maybe If you have an older computer or newer computer, your mileage may vary, but bear in mind it's not gonna make it in 5 minutes, that's for sure. But it sounds better. I have to say, the Tonex tone models sounds killer. They are very close to the original. Of course, you have to bear in mind that they get very close, but you have to match the gain. One of the issues that I have with the Tonex is not really an issue, but it's something that you have to consider. It's the input stream, which is basically the gain with which you are hitting the front of the pedal, or in this case the tone model. So for example, you have two guitars. One is a really high output one with humbuckers, one is a really low output vintage single coil stuff. If you configure the input stream for the Strat, then you're clipping with the other one. If you so it will be better to configure the the higher output pickups that you're going to use. For example, if you're going to use live, you gotta set the input stream first with the highest output pickups that you have, and then everything will sound good. But it's one of those things that you have to bear in mind. So it's a little bit more, you have to think more. With the Nano Cortex, you just plug it in, you set the gain, and you're done. It's really much more intuitive, and also the interface, it's much more intuitive. I know a lot of people complain about the software, and there is an editor that's coming via K Multimedia, but I have to say it's nothing compared to the app that comes with the Nano Cortex. Unfortunately, there's still no computer software to use to configure the Nano Cortex. You can only use your phone. But on the other hand, it's more likely that on a live situation, if you want to change anything, you have your phone with you. You probably won't have your computer, especially if you have, a desktop. So it depends on where you look at it, but the interface of the app is done really well. But now, enough talking. Let's hear the comparison of the tone models that I did. We're going to compare the pedals, some clones of pedals, and some clones of my Marshall Jubilee. I did it with all the same settings on Tonex and on the Nano Cortex, and let's see which one is closer to the original. Let's go. So, what are your thoughts? I am really undecided between these two because they each have their own features, you know, the pros and cons that may cause you to go one way or the other. I think that the big advantage of the Nano Cortex is, for what I wanted to use it, mostly for a live situation, is the ease of use of the app, which is something that you can do, you know, the night before. You set it up, and it's all done, and you don't have to, you know, use the computer, you know, fiddle with the stuff. You just put the presets that you already created, because you probably have already created them, and you know, you're ready to go. You put it in the bag and you're good to go. The Tonex, on the other hand, is something that you configure like once a month, twice a month. It depends on what you do, but for example, my Tonex One, I configure it with the true presets that I need, and then it's done. I usually never touch it, never plug it in the computer, because it's already set up the way I want it. It's like an amp with the clean and the distortion channel. That's it. I sometimes change the global IR on off, but that's it. Depend if I'm going into an amp or if I'm going into a PA system. One thing that I like about the Tonex is the fact that there is a global cabinet setting. So for example, when I'm playing through my amps in stereo here, I want to disable the IR on every preset, because I will be going through a real amp, so that's act as the IR. And on the Nano Cortex you can't do that, so you have to disable the IR for each preset. You know, it's something that is a little bit less easy to do, but it may be, you know, less common that you're always turning on and off. And of course, if you're using a neural capture that has already a baked in IR, you can't disable that, so that's it. And the same goes for the Tonex. Of course, if you have a tone model that includes a speaker in the tone model, of course you won't be able to remove that from the equation. The thing that I like about the Tonex is it's a little bit easier to use without the app, but the Nano Cortex is really cool to use with the app. I know it's counterintuitive, but it's really nice when you are trying to set it up and it's on the floor and you want to change stuff, and you can change it directly from the app. So you can literally move the knobs from the app without having to, you know, get down and move them, which is, you know, it sounds really stupid, but it's kind of comfortable, especially when you have the guitar on. But yeah, it's really hard to decide between them. One feature that I think is really cool about the Nano Cortex is the ground lift, because it sometimes happen that, especially when doing a capture, and probably that's the time where it's most useful, is when you're doing a capture of an amp and, you know, everything is connected to the same or different power outlets, and you get with a nasty ground loop that it's like half volume of the total volume. It kind of covers everything up, so the ground lift is something that can save you, and it could be useful even in you know, some venues, if there is some ground loop from maybe the PA system and all that. You switch it on and you saved with that. So I think that it's something that the Tonex lacks. I've never experienced it on the Tonex itself, I have to say, but it may happen to you and you won't be able to fix it with ground lift. You will need to use something external. But yeah, I really don't know still what I would prefer to use live. The three presets without any fiddling are interesting, but I don't like this kind of switches. I do prefer the switches on the Tonex One or on here, because, you know, it has a kind of more granular feedback. I know some people complained about the fact that these rotate for selecting the presets, and you know, you could potentially rotated while on a live situation. It never happened to me, but your mileage may vary on that. But yeah, these are the main differences.
Hey, Editing Sergio here. I forgot to mention that the Nano Cortex doesn't have a tap tempo function, while the Tonex does.
So as I already said, one of the things that I don't like about the Tonex right now, I hope it will be fixed in the future, is the fact that when you change presets, the the tail of the effects is cut, and it's something that bothers me a lot. And as you've heard in the Nano Cortex, it doesn't happen as it does in the just like on the Quad Cortex, and it's something that makes it sound much more pro on a live situation when you're changing between a very lushy sound to a maybe less reverberated one, or the delay from a patch with a delay to one that doesn't have the delay, and going without the repetition that fades away. It's something that it's kind of amateur in a way. And I really do prefer it. It could be, destructive. It could be an issue if you have a very, very lushy reverb with a long tail, and as the one I set up here just for demonstration purposes, and that could be too much if you're changing the presets and the tail of the reverb is still going like seconds after you change the patch. But of course that is a setting that you can take into account and decide if you want it to be like that or a little bit shorter, but that makes it much more pro sounding for live situation. By the way, the review of the Nano Cortex will be coming out soon. I wanted to dive deep into it just to be as thorough as possible, because most of the reviews that I've seen online are early reviewers that of course had to stick to the timeline and the embargo to put it out on the day, or maybe on the week it was released. They skipped on some stuff, and some of them were ads for Neural DSP, which is cool, but I prefer to do my reviews like a user perspective, not a retailer one. So yeah, it's coming, stay tuned. But this is it for today, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think, which one would you prefer, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!